Welcome to Authenticity Unleashed. I'm Pam Rader, your host, and I have an amazing guest here with me today who's also called Pam. And we decided that it's Pam squared. So I'm really excited about that.
Me too.
So Pam Dhillon started in healthcare when she was only 14 years old, first working at a fitness gym. And then she enrolled in school to become a registered massage therapist by age 17. So before I finish the bio, I just want to say that in itself shows me what a hardworking, dedicated person you are, and that you are a person who has vision for your life. And that's one thing I really love about you. By age 30, she was looking at how to expand her practice to include energy and trauma release and found Body Talk. Body Talk exceeded her expectations, and it's a modality that addresses the physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual, and consciousness levels of reality all in one neat package. Pam has now been practicing Body Talk for 10 years, and she feels as though it has no limits as the modality grows for her. Pam is a student for life and extremely dedicated to self-growth. You can always expect her sessions to be cutting edge, as she is deeply aware of the potential available to humanity. I love that. Welcome, 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 Pam. So
Thank you
happy.
so much for having me here, Pam. This is such an honor. I have been watching you and been a part of your world as a major fan and student for a while, and I was living in Kelowna, so this was like a big honor for me to be welcomed and invited onto your podcast.
Well, I'm looking for game changers. I'm really looking
Yeah.
to have people that I admire who are walking maybe not the well-beaten path. They're walking their own walk towards what feels authentic to them. And I've been watching you for a long time, and as you know, but our listeners don't, we have a mutual friend who we both love and adore. And just the fact that we got connected through our mutual friend has sparked this desire to cheer you on and watch you grow. And I'm so curious about what you're doing, and I'm sure that our listeners are going to be fascinated as well. So I want to start out by asking you, what does authenticity mean to you?
Good question. For me, it means and it sounds like maybe over people say this a lot, but it really is true for me when the following the heart path.
Mm-hmm.
So truly following the heart, and what that means for me, it's a place of courage, because following the heart for me means a lot of the time where my brain is saying absolutely not, you cannot go down that road, that is going to be something that is going to really challenge your survival. And when there is an energy in the heart that says well, no, this is a true hell yes. And having that courage to step forward in that way, following the authenticity of the identity of the soul, of the identity of the heart space, and coming in with a massive amount of trust for that place of the heart and that identity that lives in there, going, can this place of my heart actually lead me into a place that's authentically me, in my highest expression, that's going to actually take care of me? Whereas a lot of people are really basing their lives on root chakra fear of just I need to manage basic survival needs, and not trusting that their own heart, spirit, universe, whatever, is going to take care of them if you just follow the hell yes path.
So
Yeah.
you said so many beautiful things there, and I want to pull something apart. So we all experience fear, and that's the head is saying, no, you can't do that. And you related that to the root chakra. That's just survival. And then that the heart, that authenticity is led by the heart. And I think that it takes some practice to be able to have the kind of listening for the whispers of the heart over the loud cacophony of the mind that's just trying to keep this meat suit alive.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to me like you've had an inner listening for that since you were young, because of the things you did at such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if you can describe, for me, I get the sense that it's a longing or a desire. What is it that is listening to the heart? Because it's something to say, but what is it really to listen to your heart? What does that feel like?
Yeah, like for me, I think when I was younger, like those moments of coming into, oh, right, I'm gonna enroll as to be an RMT at 17. That
Mhm.
moment where it kind of it just kind of hits me like a wave where there's an energy that I can't deny, where there's
Mhm.
something where it's almost harder to go against it than, you know what I mean? That there's an energy where like that was so true for me. I was massaging someone's shoulders, and because I just naturally like to use my hands at a young age for a massage, and somebody just casually said to me, "Oh, you should be a massage therapist. You're so good at this." And I remember just having this, and I didn't know what this was at this time, but like a wave of energy that hit my body, and I just heard inside my own system, I just heard, "Yes, that makes so much sense." And there was a
Mhm.
driving force of my own spirit that I didn't know what that was at that time. I was too young, but it was a driving force that there was something automatic that happened with that I just kind of like at that moment followed through in the action of like going to the school, finding the information, applying, and having to go against the grain because it wasn't really it was a modality that I chose was maybe probably against the culture I grew up in. So I had
Okay.
to go against the grain of like how I was brought up. And I had to really have that break off conversation with my family of like, I'm gonna go like rub bodies for a living.
Ah, yeah. Was that so? That tell me a little bit more about that. What were some of the rationalizations around why one wouldn't want to do that for a living growing up?
Yeah, I think that I grew up. So if people are watching or just listening to this, I am of Indian descent and first generation Canadian, and just with culture, like my parents didn't really understand what massage therapy was. It was like you want to go massage naked people, like it was very culturally kind of like taboo.
Right.
And like maybe you could go be a doctor, go be an engineer, those kind of typical things that some of the Eastern communities really kind of root for. And but I had a like a strong mother who really wanted us to follow our heart, no matter if it felt gritty against the grain, right? So, and in that place of holding integrity in our own hearts of what actually is going to allow joy and pleasure and fun and passion for her children. So she really was an advocate for that. She got married young, and I feel like she kind of missed out on those aspects. So she kind of was helping us push through, even though it
Right.
was maybe uncomfortable in like the imagery of in our community of having a daughter that in their minds just rub naked bodies. Like they didn't
Yeah, but
understand.
you come from a line of game
Yeah.
changing women.
Yes. Yeah,
Great.
and it was for educating them. Like, no, this is like a meta. This is I had to show them like the science classes that I had to take, and had to educate them in the profession, and all that stuff to kind of convince them. And of course, my dad had a little more resistance, but was able to move through it pretty quickly. They didn't actually stop or say anything that no or anything like that.
Hmm.
So in that energy, like for me, I noticed that when I spoke from my heart space, if I was just to say I wanted to do it, but it wasn't coming from this place of the heart. I'd be curious to see if that conversation would have been more of a challenge because
Right.
it was a challenge for them, but they kept it to themselves. Like they dealt with their own resistance on their own. They didn't really put it on me. They let me just move forward and do
Hmm.
it. And if they were uncomfortable, they dealt with it by themselves,
As a
which was,
parent
mhm,
to young men, I have four young men, not even
mhm,
so young. The youngest is 25 this year. I watch them do some things that I wonder about.
mhm. Yeah.
And I too had parents who probably had some strong opinions about some things that I chose in my life and chose to let me follow my path because I think that they truly believe that our greatest the obstacle becomes the stepping stone. And if
Mhm,
we protect our children from the obstacles, we also protect them from any level of exceeding themselves in some way and building the confidence and the reputation with themselves that goes with that. And for me, what I'm hearing in all of this is you feel called upon to expand in some way and you
mhm,
listen to that. It feels a certain way when you're called upon to expand. And
mhm.
that's the same for me. I get an idea. It comes like an idea. Like, I
Yeah.
wonder, maybe I should write a book. Well, who the heck would write a book? Then my head comes in and goes, "You're not an author. What are you doing? You don't
Mm,
write a book, and people will judge you and all of that." But now the seed has been planted and it becomes a curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I follow that path enough times, what I've recognized the pattern is, you said joy, like to follow our
Mm-hmm.
joy. The
Mm-hmm.
pattern is that I have discovered when I feel the most joy is when I have exceeded myself in some way.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
so,
beautiful.
yeah, so then it takes away a little bit of the fear. But if we're staying safe all the time, we also rob ourselves of that joy that comes from stepping into potentia and exceeding what we ever saw possible for ourselves before.
Yeah, and if I thought about a career that wasn't at that point going into being RMT, it didn't spark me. It was like if I was to start that career path, I felt dull. Like it didn't
Mm.
feel inviting. It didn't feel like it lit me up. And so there was an energy where I was able to put my heart first, regardless of having to push through boundaries. And I think that I do have that in my bloodline to like be able to face a fire and see how, like, where is that going to bring me expansion, and actually just trust that action. And I know that
Mhm.
sounds maybe like really, some of listeners might be like, well, that seems kind of hard. How do I really recognize that? Because that's like, these are big decision moments of like things like career and stuff. So I always like kind of even recommend doing it, even spending like small moments of trying to pick like little things with your heart, whether not it's not a dangerous choice or a big life altering choice, like down to, I might even play a game like picking, my outfit for the day and a certain color that just attracts me. Like I'll look at my closet and I'll play heart games in like heart decision making through like um in ways that are not going to threaten my root chakra. My root chakra doesn't care if I'm wearing red or blue or yellow that day. It's more just kind of feeling, okay, I'm going to pull on this blue shirt. And then I might see something that happens in my day where that color blue comes in for a conversation. It ends up being a throat activator in a session, or it ends up playing a bit of a role in my day with these minor choices I make. And so I can practice heartfelt decision making in a non-threatening way, and to see, how did that actually amplify my day? How did that make my day more flowy by making these smaller choices that the root chakra or the brain are not paying attention to? They don't really care. And as your confidence starts to build up with smaller choices that are led by the heart, nothing bad happened, the opposite actually happened. Your day got more amplified through those even small choices than bigger choices like careers or moves, and it can
Yeah.
be easier because you start to like cultivate trust with
I love
smaller movements
that.
first. Yeah.
I love that. And it's, yeah, building a trust for yourself. I get so many clients in my coaching practice who say, I don't really know who I am. I don't really know. They've been so busy trying to fit in and not be rejected, the root chakra leading them to want to, get, um, to have their reticular activating system fully present to all the ways they could be rejected and humiliated, and so they're driven to conform and people please. And then they get to a stage in their life, as we all will when we're living inauthentically, that it's too painful,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know what it is that they want, and they have decision paralysis. They're so
Mm-hmm.
afraid to make any kind of move. And so I love the tool of just going in the closet and just what feels really lovely and beautiful to me today. I've often given people the assignment to go to chapters with no agenda and just like feel books and look and see what attracts you and pulls you in, that maybe you wouldn't have ever thought to choose, and buy a book that you're curious about, not because other people said it's good,
Yeah.
and touch textures and smell flowers and ask yourself, do I like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's right along the same lines, but I love
Mm-hmm.
how simple that is walking into the closet every day and saying, this is a decision I can make for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start to build trust with the heart. Beautiful. I really, really love that.
Yeah, the small
So
choices. Yeah.
yeah. And I love to say, I got this from one of my coaches, Dan Martell, and he says, there's no right decisions, just decisions you make right. And so
That's awesome.
that's the other thing. Like, it's okay for us to make decisions that don't lead us where we want to go, because then we start to, I think, it's not necessarily about making that decision right, but what it is us getting some discernment. Oh, that's what that felt like. Now I recognize it didn't feel the same way when I chose that thing as when I chose something that was from my heart.
Totally. And then that is because if you don't know, like the day that feels a little more contracted through a choice, you won't know what expansion feels like. I mean, that's just quite that simple thing. We need that duality to
Yeah.
understand so we can discern decision making. So
The
it's such an imperative
contrast.
thing. That contrast
Yeah.
is so important while you're learning, especially. And then you can start to find the flow. But during learning processes, then I have such gratitude for contrast when, oh, okay, cool, that didn't actually work for my flow. So how am I going to discern and navigate and use my intuition differently tomorrow? And fine tune that, and it's this like growth process of that, and it's led like one small choice at every moment of if you're choosing like down to like, okay, what product of deodorant am I gonna buy, like choosing the simplest things off the shelf. But if we do that every day with something small to big, and every choice that we make is like, okay, what just feels good, what feels authentic in my heart, if I just sense this option, what makes me feel like my body is expanding and leaning into it, for what first makes me feel like I'm just doing it for other or for society and not for my like this energy of joy, then just choosing moment by moment, not making it this big thing, but one step at a time, one stone at a time, and seeing then from there when you look back at your year, like holy smokes, like all those small and big decisions have completely changed my life. I'm a totally different person in this past year than I was, and I can't even tell you what happened. It was just about these decisions one at a time.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're saying this, I'm uh, laying on a whole bunch of like scenarios in my mind. You have this well-established career as a registered massage therapist, which is a pretty decent career. You can make
Mm-hmm.
good money. You're established. People like you. Now your parents have got over you rubbing bodies. They're
Yes,
proud.
they're totally good.
And,
Yeah.
and you got all these clients that love you. And you say one day, yeah, I'm going to go do this woo-woo weird thing called body talk.
Yes.
So first off, for our listeners, and a little bit for me, I've had some body talk sessions, not yet had the privilege of having one with you, which I'm so excited to get to book that.
Mm-hmm.
But explain for our listeners, what is body talk?
Right. I know it's such so body talk is a modality that's based on consciousness. So you'll hear lots of modalities that are based on like obviously physicality or on energy. This is a more of a consciousness based practice. So you're going to have your practitioner looking at parts of blockages in your system that are caused by things in the mental body. So subconscious mind belief systems, um, conditioning, our programming, traumas, and that type of thing. And how is that actually creating your behaviors or your physical symptoms to that point where, say, for instance, I can say if I was just working an energy body and you had like a root chakra or a solar plexus chakra block, if I just clear and move the energy at your solar plexus, that might help and move some energy through your small intestine and help improve digestion. But if I'm not looking at why did the solar plexus get plugged up and I just move it, you go, okay, that's sometimes, and it'll get plugged up again. So what's the consciousness behind the root chakra, or sorry, the solar plexus chakra not fully being vital to help your physical body and digestion? It's going to be like, okay, so what's that chakra really represent? Well, the identity of the ego, self-esteem, boundaries, discernment, gut intuition. And so where maybe is there an energy in your subconscious mind or your conscious mind where your self-esteem got knocked over? Where or your identity got squashed. And then that belief of self or that emotional trauma is living in your mind somewhere, which is then causing a weakening or a dampening of the actual chakra, and then therefore that vitality can't support your physical form, and now you've got maybe some issue in digestion and you're just not sure where it's coming from, but
So we
perhaps it's
cleared
from
out.
yeah.
I saw a meme yesterday that
Mm-hmm.
just reminds me of this. It was mom life is like. And it showed the mom cleaned the house so beautifully and she was so proud, and she just went outside to take the garbage out. And then the time that she took the garbage out, her kids and her husband came into the kitchen and there's chips everywhere, milk spilled, stuff all over. And it's just kind of like like it's clean for a second. So I'm
Yes.
getting that kind of image, and it's just a chasing shadows if we don't address the root cause. Is that
That's it. So it's really chasing the
okay?
root cause in consciousness. And then and this is, I've kind of made this, well, Body Talk itself is quantum based also. So what
So
that
what is
really means,
quantum? Just so that people, yeah, because
yeah,
I know what it means. I think,
yeah,
and though I want our listeners, because some of them are probably going, "What's a chakra? What's a
what's a
quantum?"
chakra? That's it, right? And so, of course, like there is, so when we bring like this outward view of our physical self, so we have our physical body, which I'm sure everybody here knows what that is.
Yeah.
And then we have our vital body, which is, the energetic body. So there is like a plug-in. You can imagine it as like electricity in our system that's helping us, um, be animated, which is your chi, which is your chakra system, which is, all the energy systems of your body. And then you have your mental body, your consciousness that's going to create the programs, like basically how am I going to be thinking, moving, acting throughout the world, depending on your conditioning. And so with quantum based healing, I kind of even go more outwards in a viewpoint of that, going, okay, like I really see that there being this aspect of spirituality or this kind of unified field of oneness in the aspect of who am I truly? Am I actually just Pam Dhillon in this meat suit with these issues in my body, these issues in my energy system, the conditioning of my upbringing in the DNA of this form through my lineage and through my school system or my family, and in this kind of way of just Pam. And through my own journey and through understanding my own self and kind of allowing myself to just be really open-minded and open-hearted, I've really realized that, our identity goes beyond just the ego self and beyond these identities. And there's an identity also in the heart, the identity of our spirit or our soul, however you want to see that, the body we're currently in. And you're like, well, our soul has gone through a lot of stuff that's beyond like Pam squared, you know? And so then with that, I'm always like, well, how far does the roots actually go? Like, what if the root of the issue in their solar plexus isn't because of a self-esteem issue that happened in this body, but it's because of something that happened at a time and place that was different, that was in a part of the soul that happened at a different time. Time doesn't really exist in the linear way anyways, but if it was a parallel life or a so-called past life or in a different expression, a different body, and that's also playing a role or playing the actual root role of why your current vessel isn't as happy as it could be. So we can call that karma, we can call that unfinished business, we can call that conditioning from a soul lineage versus a blood lineage. So that I like to be I really want to follow and chase the root. And then that has taken me to places that I'll call quantum because they're beyond our physical reality.
Wow. Okay. So this is different than you know, just reincarnation, past lives, and it transcends all kinds of religious and dogma, and it's really understanding energy
Yeah.
as energy doesn't die. Energy continues to exist even after the body exists. And our limited understanding of energy is that it's all contained in the meat suit, when in reality, we're so much bigger than that. And like you said,
Yes.
there could be parallel lives happening. When we understand ourselves in terms of energy, I think we can get more of a sense of what the quantum field is and what quantum healing is. We have to expand our view of ourselves, which would
Yes.
be good for most of us anyway, because we're so stuck in the me, myself, and I, in the movie of me, myself, and I, starring me, myself, and I,
Yeah.
directed by me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
But we perceive me, myself, and I as this physical body.
Yeah. And then if you
Okay.
talk about being authentic, then this is really truly what I mean is like in the heart, if you let yourself really dive into that heart, that's the identity of the soul.
Okay.
So that lives in the metaphysically lives in the soul,
Mhm.
and sorry, in the heart. And then you have the identity of ourself, the healthy ego, in the solar plexus.
Mhm.
So you have these two identities. And so when I go authenticity of the heart, you get to learn about yourself in like this grander way. Who am I truly? What is my energy? Wait, how expansive am I really? And how can I actually contain my entire energy in this body, or am I even way too big for that? And in that bigness, then can I actually be embodied in more than one vessel? Can I be embodied in more than one reality? Can I be embodied in more than one realm or planet? And so if I actually was to access my truest, highest self, and we can actually you can communicate with your sovereign soul through consciousness, and go, whoa, I think there's like a version of me that's in some seventh dimensional plane doing some really cool badass stuff, and I can tap into that through like a third eye, inner sense awakening, or through meditation, and tune in and tap into the talents of that expression of yourself in some other plane, and use that in your expression here, which is the most important expression. This is a consciousness that we're in right now, for about consciousness everywhere. But my perspective right here as Pam is the most important one for me, because this is what I've chosen. Um, but that doesn't mean I can't access the other potential consciousness of myself to amplify my um, self-esteem. Perhaps if we're still talking about the solar plexus, of like, oh, this version of me in this other plane is doing some pretty cool things, and if that is a part of my higher soul, also I have access to that warrior essence, or that extreme place of patience, or that place of empowerment that I might not have here. This access, it's in the same coding. That version of me living in that seventh dimension is the same coding as that I have here, because we have multiple aspects of DNA. We've got our carbon-based DNA that's for your form here on Earth, and we have like a soul lineage DNA, like an esoteric energy that is wrapped around our carbon-based DNA, that is just energy-based. And that
Okay.
energy-based DNA is not built out of matter. It's not the double helix that we study, but it's got like this quantum-based energy where we can access more photons or light around our DNA to have access to our higher expression, our highest expression, all of our expressions. That all that consciousness communication happens through these layers of light.
So, thank you. That's the best explanation of quantum that I've heard, and I feel like I understand it a little bit better. And I know I'm only scratching the surface in my understanding, and it's always exciting when it expands.
Mm-hmm.
I want to come back to, so you make this choice to work with quantum energy, quantum
Yes.
and consciousness, and people around you. I'm certain that there must have been multiple people who said, "Are you crazy?"
Yeah.
and and so my question to you is, at that time, did you, even with your inner knowing and your practice with following your heart, did you have doubt along the way, and what
Oh
did that
gosh.
look like, and how did you, so let's give some breadcrumbs, like
Mm-hmm.
how did that show up for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Body Talk came to me 10 years ago because I was in an emotional wreck. I was in a really bad emotional place. I was really heartbroken, and I didn't know how to help myself. It was the worst heartbreak, or the most, that I ever had in my life. And I remember a friend coming over, and she was like, oh man, like there's a modality I found called Body Talk. I think you should go try. And so so I went for my first session, and I remember thinking, I don't know what the heck this lady did, what she said, but I just feel really different. I feel completely like I'm cracking open. So for me, that was really when I started to use Body Talk to allow that cracking open, to start to understand the potential of it for myself. And even still then, even though I was cracking open and finding the potential, finding my heart, it took me years to be able to do it for in a professional standpoint. So it was about a year after receiving it as a client did I start training in it. And even when I was training in it, I only really did Body Talk exchanges with people that were already in the community, because I was so afraid of like having this presented in a public way that, I already was an established registered massage therapist that had, a big following and a respected practice and in this kind of way. And I was like, people are going to think I'm crazy. Like, I'm just going to keep this really private. That's part of this community. And it's going to be this kind of separate thing that I do. And it was helping me and my own confidence and healing my own conditioning and all sorts of things that I was moving through as we do with our own wounding. And so it's
Well, there's
probably,
something there I just want to pull apart.
mhm,
And it's
mhm,
interesting because there's two sides to this. One is like when we do something, we're following our heart. There, it can be the duality of things. We're following our heart and we have fear. So we follow our
mhm.
heart and we do it in secret.
Yes.
But and one could argue that that's not full expression and it's not living authentically, but I don't necessarily think so. I think that sometimes you don't need to tell anyone what you're doing at first until exactly you build some confidence, build some skill. Because if we shout it from the rooftops what we're doing before we feel confident, I think we're too easily knocked over by what other
Yes.
people think.
Yeah, I didn't have the inner strength yet to be helped. And I knew it was so important for me. Like the first few years of journey through body talk was for me. It
Mhm.
wasn't like I was learning how to be a practitioner in it, but it really wasn't for me to be a practitioner in it. I'm sure you have lots of people come to yoga training but never actually teach yoga.
Yeah, they always say,
Right.
I just came here for the personal development. Usually I get them to teach a little bit, but
Yeah. Yeah, right. But
but
that's usually like a push and they're like, ah. And so
yeah.
that was for me too. Like I was doing the training, but I knew ideally it was for my own healing.
Mhm.
And I knew that if I really like, there's certain people I could speak to about it, and certain people, yeah, exactly. I was too vulnerable to express to certain people because what if they knocked me down and made me feel silly or stupid?
Oh, I
And it was
love
too
this
much to
though.
risk. Yeah.
It's so good because I don't think we talk about this enough. We talk about go
Hmm.
out there and express yourself and live your authentic life unapologetically. And I'm one who says that. But then
Hmm.
also like there are things it's okay to keep things quiet as long as you're following your heart. There's no right way to do it. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops. And doing it in your own way and in your own time
Hmm.
and giving yourself the grace to feel at ease with it.
Hmm.
What if that's the
What if
pathway?
that's totally, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be loud as long as your heart's opening and as long as you're finding that light within. It can be deeply private, and I feel like that's totally okay. And it's interesting because even a lot of the practitioners for body talk, I mean, if you think about it, a majority of them, a lot of them work out of their own homes. Like you don't really see a lot of people putting their little sandwich boards out saying body talk or consciousness healing or quantum healing. Let me teach you about all the places you live in the universe. You don't see storefronts for that. And so I was curious about that too. And I finally started to work years of kind of finding my own inner strength. I was working in a very busy clinic in Kelowna. And I remember thinking, man, am I also going to just do this on the side? Like, do I have my RMD practice in this public clinic? Or do I actually say, hey, I want to bring this modality into like the mainstream clinics?
Hmm.
Like, I want to not hide this anymore. And
Hmm.
so I remember this feeling of just this inner thought, like kind of this idea of like, what if I was a person to bring it to a clinic and not
Hmm.
actually do it at home? And that was terrifying. And that was probably already 3 years maybe after I already started my training, where I
Hmm.
was doing it quietly. I was just doing it at home. I was just doing it with trades with friends. And then I said, okay, Pam, be brave. Like, it's a moment now where I'm going to say, hey, like, I want to start to bring some of this to my practice. So I did bring it into my practice at my old clinic there in Kelowna. And it was even then just terrifying because I remember telling clients, like, hey, like, I feel like a bit of a bandit for it. How about this new modality that I'm practicing? And how about we book you in for one of those sessions one of these days and we can really kind of get into maybe the whys and the roots of what was happening here. And I remember some people kind of going, oh, sure, maybe. And some people going, well, why? No, this is working for me. I'm happy with just getting these massages. And so I remember I didn't really know how to speak about it. I didn't know how to like express like myself in a way of confidence to get people to really try it. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it after hours. I won't take up too much of my massage time. I'll make it really cheap, just to get people to try. And I remember people would, sign up and I would be so nervous. And I would sit there looking at my notes for like, frantically before they came in, thinking, what if I can't tune in? What if I get no information? I'd just be in panic about it. And of course, something would always happen and cool things would always shift and move. And so I think after some time, of just letting myself be afraid, take a deep breath and dive in, I got just more and more confident as people, try gave it a go and tried it. And
Well, you said
yeah.
something in there. You said,
Mhm.
you asked yourself, you said, "Hey, Pam, you've got to be brave." And I do believe we can practice these things deeply, privately, and all of that. But for us to have that deep experience of joy, the joy comes with sharing.
Yeah.
Keeping it all to ourselves, there's only a certain amount of joy, but the real joy is in the expansion. And that comes with exceeding ourselves. And you said at the beginning, to live deeply from the heart requires some courage.
Mhm.
And so there's a moment, it's like the moment in a movie where the hero has to have the courage to do the thing. And there's self-doubt is present and fear is there, but we choose to put them in the back seat and drive ahead anyway.
Yes.
And I think that's the distinguishing factor. It's like there's a moment to live really, truly, authentically. There's a moment when it matters enough to you that you're willing to risk humiliation,
Yes.
rejection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew I wanted to be like, I knew I wanted to be a practitioner of it. I knew I didn't want to just kind of, at that point, I was like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this. This is something that I'm meant to be sharing with others and helping other people with. Like, it was so clear to me that I just knew that in my place of service, which I was a great ingrained for since I was 14 of being in the health field, I was like, okay, this is one of those moments where you have to kind of just push past this conversation that people might think you're crazy, and it's okay, I guess, if they do.
Yeah.
I'll resonate with people that are going to say, "Hey, I don't know what you're really saying, but there's an inner yes also that person's following their heart in that inner yes, even though they might not know anything that I'm talking about, but they want to come give it a go." And
Yeah.
so that was really cool just to see, okay, who's ready for this? Who's going to feel that inner yes? And if somebody's not and they're just kind of getting a no, that's okay. There's no
Yeah.
pressure there. That's totally okay. Like, just feeling, when are you ready to work with me? And that's totally great. And I started to recognize it like that, like not feeling ego bruised if someone said no, but feeling lit up when someone said yes. Going, oh, cool, this person is ready for this, or I'm the right observer for them.
I
And
love
yeah.
everything you're saying about that
Mhm.
because it's speaking to vibration. The expression your vibe attracts your tribe. When you take a step into worthiness and believe in yourself and do the thing that's scary because you love it, then you attract a different kind of people
Mhm.
than when you're playing small.
Mhm.
And so, yes, some people will fall off and it's not for them, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with them
Mhm.
and there's nothing wrong with you. But we have to accept that when we shift our vibration like that, then who we attract will also shift. And I also love something in there. You have the patience to really follow, not to have a specific outcome in mind. You're just following the pathway one step at a time.
Mhm.
In my coaching practice, I didn't know who I would like to coach. And every other business coach and things that I've worked with, they've all said, you've got to niche down. You've got to niche down. And in my heart, I was like, no, I have tools and awareness and practices that can help everyone because if you take problems down to their root, they're all the same. It doesn't matter if it's a business thing or a relationship, it's all the same.
Mhm.
And I refused to do it. And everyone said I would fail.
Mm.
I've had multiple business coaches say, you have to, you can't, and I just listened. It wasn't out of fear. I was just like, no, that doesn't feel true for me. It doesn't feel true. And here I am, 10 years later with a couple of thriving businesses, and people come to me for leadership. People come to me for relationships. People come to me because they're struggling with anxiety. So, you know, I'm so grateful to have followed my heart, and
Mhm.
I also buck the system in that I do have vision for things I want to do in my future, but where this is going to lead me, I
Mhm.
have no idea because I think that creator, consciousness, the universe has plans for me that I do not have the ability to dream yet.
Yes. Yeah. I love that so much because it's like I always like laugh and I'm like, I'm not as creative as
Right.
the universe. And so here am I, like I go, if I want this, it's gonna be this or better.
Yeah.
So if I get in my own way of thinking like a huge 10-year plan and I've got every step of the way planned out, then I'm actually feel like I limit my own potential because I
Mhm.
can't even dream up what my potential is. I have no clue. And
Yeah.
so when I just kind of get guided, I'm like, yeah, show me what I need to know. Show me the next couple of steps so I can navigate this heart's desire in this 3D world. But I don't need to know much more than that as long as I'm kept safe and provided for.
Yeah.
If I get like the whole 10-year download of understanding what's going to happen, then where's the fun of life, or where's the movie? Like you get to know the ending before, I like it makes life so much more fun for me,
Mhm.
and like the mystery of it, to enjoy the mystery of it. And when can we
Yeah.
feel safe enough in our own system, in our own body, that we actually allow life to be a mystery?
And if I look back on my life and the slow unfolding of the knowledge and the wisdom that I've needed to gain, when I if I had the stuff that I have now then, I was an idiot. I would
Yeah.
never have used it for good or the
Yeah.
right way. My ego would have got in the way. And so I can look back and trust.
Using all my intuition to win all the lottery and hoard all,
Totally whatever, yeah, or to manipulate people to like
Yeah.
me and those kinds of harmful things that we don't do with a harmful intention, but with great power comes great responsibility. So we have to learn sort of power and responsibility at the same rate.
Yes.
And when I look back, I think, oh, I got every lesson I needed at the exact right time. And maybe it's a little slower than I would have liked, but isn't it perfect? And that gives me faith to trust that right where I am is the right place and where I'll be next week is the right place, as long as I'm guided by my heart.
Yeah, I love the not rushing thing, like that, for me to like kind of really squeeze out and nurture every part of every experience to have that deep
Mhm.
lesson, is like to rush. I take it to like scuba diving. I'm a scuba diver. And there's like a beautiful thing when you get into like advanced diving, you realize that the slower you are, like the more you just chill and learn your buoyancy, the
Mhm.
more you're going to see underwater.
Mhm.
Like if you just swim over the coral, you're gonna toss everything up, and you're not paying attention. Life's not gonna come out to meet you because you've scared it away. Like you haven't stopped and been still, coral, and you don't haven't been one with the water to almost be like unseen by the life, so it actually can come out and meet you.
Oh, I
And
love that. What a beautiful metaphor.
and maybe that's why I chose diving versus like an extreme fast sport. I love kind of this slow trickling of water that can, shape a stone kind of energy. And so I've never really been in a rush. I've always just allowed the timing to be quite natural. And I think that's why maybe my root chakra has not given up too much resistance in that, because it's like I'm patient with it. I don't
Mhm.
push it and say like, I say, yeah, we're gonna go behind a closed door for some time until you're comfortable.
Yeah.
I'll be okay with my nervous system. I know that my spirit has a huge fast momentum, but I have a nervous system and I have a root chakra,
Yeah.
and my entirety, my all of my existence, all of my consciousness is a part of my race,
Mhm.
as well as that slowest part. So I'm going to be mindful that I don't sever myself, that I'm not fragmenting myself in the sake of speed. I want
Right.
all of myself to ascend and to move through, and I deeply respect the um when I need to pause at the top of the mountain for the slowest part of me to catch up and get there. Like, it's
Oh,
okay.
that's really
I'm gonna
lovely.
enjoy the
Yeah.
view. Yeah.
Yeah, because there are parts of us that might want to go fast, where other parts, unhealed parts of us, might need a
Hmm.
little more nurturing.
Hmm.
And I love that you presence the nervous system, because I want to talk about this for a second. I think that one of the biggest obstacles to people living their most authentic life is that they don't understand their nervous system.
Yeah.
They believe that when they feel this fear and the sweat and the body almost shutting down, that that's intuition. And it's just not. It's often old trauma being triggered. It's your brain scanning the environment for, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And this reminds me of something where I wasn't safe. And so I'm going to protect you by shutting you down.
Yeah.
And that's not intuition at all. That's
No,
the meat suit kicking in to keep itself alive.
that's it.
And when we learn about the nervous system, we can say, oh, actually, when I look back, every time I was about to expand, I hit this wall. It's like a terror barrier. And it felt like this.
Yes.
But when I got still enough and listened to the longing of my heart, I knew I could climb over that wall to the other side, and I didn't die
I
and
did.
life is okay. And we can look back on the successes of the past to help us navigate our out of control and dysregulated nervous systems in the present.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
And
what it
it's,
takes to live authentically. We have to
we
regulate our
have to.
nervous systems, or at least
Yeah.
understand them.
Yeah. And it's like this beautiful energy of like, okay, what, if you think about like your nervous system and what it's maybe used to being, maybe the range it's used to. Once you push the limit of a range, it's going to feel like, oh my gosh, why are you pushing the boundary of what I'm really comfortable with? And then as soon as we expand our life or range, then your nervous system has to get used to that new place you've just put it into. So,
Yeah.
but you're still safe, and we can see
Yeah.
that. You just have to move through the somatics of it, and then kind of in those moments start to have a mantra. Mine is like, I am comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
read in Brianna Weist has a book called 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think. And it's
Mm.
got some really good readings in it. I always have 3 or 4 books on the go because
Yeah,
I
me
love
too.
to learn. Yeah. I never can just be reading one thing at a time.
No.
And I read something in there the other day that I've just been chewing on it and savoring it. And she said, the measure of a great life is our ability to expand our capacity for discomfort.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that so good? Because
Yes, it's so
actually, it's
good.
not that the shit doesn't still happen, but our capacity to not be knocked over by it gets just bigger and better, and we're able to
Yes.
observe without reacting. So life still happens. We
Yeah.
just don't get knocked over by it. And the
Yeah.
more we expand our capacity to deal with discomfort, the nicer our lives get.
Yes. It's like, whoa, I can handle more. I've got more of this like coherence in my nervous system that I can actually be in an uncomfortable energy, but have a smile on my face and still be in bliss and joy, even though I'm like cracking open. That
Yeah.
there is bliss in these moments. So what is actually, where we have a background, if you have a background of bliss in your life versus fear, then we can blissfully move through that cocoon and go, yeah, why would it feel good to open up a cocoon? That would feel really weird. It'd be
Yeah.
really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that butterfly is not going to come out unless it pushes a little bit.
Yeah.
And
So
so for perspective, yeah.
tell me a little bit about what people could expect if they come for a body talk session with you. What does that look like? Because I know sometimes when they don't know their nervous systems will
Hmm.
get really freaked out, and that will be enough to stop them from coming. So let's regulate some people's nervous systems around a body talk session. What does that look like?
Yeah. And it's really interesting because a lot of the time when people come in for a session, they'll say like right away, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous to be here. And I'm always
Mhm.
like, oh, that's so exciting. It's like usually my response
Yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
that's just like in that place where that person was like brave enough to go, okay, I'm going to push the boundary a little bit. I am going to expand my nervous system state and I'm going to move into a place of uncomfortability for growth, not for damage. And
Yeah.
so if you do feel, if you're preparing to come from that inner excitability, it's okay to like just allow yourself to feel that,
Mhm.
and not necessarily bail. Even in my own experience of self-growth, usually when I'm the most resistant towards an event or a session, or kind of feel like, oh my gosh, can I handle it? Is usually when I have my biggest breakthroughs. Like that, but
Yeah.
that part of your nervous system almost like knows what's coming. And so almost something like bigger the energy of the nervous system is, sometimes you just kind of have a preview of like, oh man, this is gonna be a big session. So kind of lean into
I,
the
you
joy of
know,
that.
I love when you said that, because whenever clients come to me and they say I'm so nervous and I don't know why, and I always have the sense they're nervous because the problem that they're about to present me, they know damn well it's not the problem, and that I also am going to catch that, and we're going to have
Yes.
the biggest breakthrough.
Yes.
And so I also get excited. I'm like, "Oh, awesome."
Yep. Yeah, it's because they know they're coming for change, and
Yes.
change has to be felt in the nervous system. So the nervous system is already working. It's actually, I think, it's working with you, not against you. I think it's
Yes.
already trying to shake your system up and makes it really excitable. Like it's like a kundalini energy where it's going, okay, you're going to make some change. I better make some space.
Yeah.
So let me make some space and shake you up a little bit so I have room. It's like you want to make more room in a container, you kind of give it a jiggle,
Yeah.
then you can fit more stuff in there. And so I think that's what's happening. We just perceive it as something negative. So yeah, when you come in for a session, you can do it either in person. So my clinic is now in Vernon, BC. You can come in person if you're in the area, or if you're not in the area, you can do it online as well. It doesn't really make a difference for me, because we are working with quantum energy. That we're not like we're working with consciousness again. I'm working using consciousness to help unblock your energy system and unblock your physical body. So my approach isn't like body up; it's kind of consciousness down. So even if when I'm working at the consciousness level, your energy system and your physical body will just do the work itself. This is about your own body repairing. My hands are
Mhm.
actually not doing anything other than it's just
Right.
my observation, which can happen, doesn't matter of space. So either you come in, and I just kind of listen. We first start off with like, what are you working on? Like, what's your goals for today's
Mhm.
session? What's your intentions for today's session?
Mhm.
And I just really like to hear that so I can have like a bit of a navigation on where we're going to go, because
Mhm.
um, I mean, the universe is our oyster on that one. Like we can go anywhere. But even though I hear the agenda, we'll call it, from the client, and usually that is the priority also, but sometimes not, because you can have
Mhm.
certain things that you're working on, but we're so layered that
Mhm.
the session itself will be priority based. So we'll have a conversation how holistic we are. So if it's like, oh my goodness, like I'm having an issue at work and I need to really stand up towards, my boss, and I feel like I need to have whatever conversation, maybe I'm looking for a raise, whatever it is. And even it doesn't have to be physical stuff you come to me for. It could be something even environmental and relational that way. And then I might talk to you about your childhood, something. And you're like, how does this
Yeah.
relate to like where my request is for this job thing? That everything is tied. We're going to be finding perhaps an event that happened in your youth that is conditioning you to not be able to stand up and talk for yourself and advocate for yourself for change or for whatever you need in your life. So just allowing me to hear your story, what's alive for you, and then kind of surrendering after that to allow what the session to reveal whatever it needs to. It'll be one of those
Okay.
things that is layers, like that we're gonna like see that whole onion effect and understand that all plays a role, and to trust that if I take you off in some past life story, it's gonna be the innate wisdom, the innate consciousness of your body is gonna show me the place where we can find the deepest root that is irritating your life right now. And so it is a place of trust. And then we move through the session. You're going to potentially feel a lot moving right then and there in your body, like in through your nervous system.
Mhm.
You might feel emotions move through your body. You might feel physical sensations. And the biggest thing, though, is when you go back into your life in the weeks following, the ripple effect of each session, going, how am I responding in life now? Is there I'm just that thing is not triggering me anymore. I'm having a different response to these conversations. I was able to walk into my boss's office and have a conversation really easily. I didn't have to work myself in like up for it. It's now quite natural. It
Mhm.
becomes like the result of it becomes so natural and easy that you almost forget that you even had a session. You're like, whoa,
Mhm.
life's just really flowy right now. It's not this big sticky thing. We kind of just clean up the blocks that when you will leave the session, it kind of just feels like you're flowing down river on a nice sunny day and it's all breezy. So
Well,
that's when
that
you start to
sounds
see
delightful.
it's
Nothing to be
delightful.
scared of for people. I have had body talk
Mhm.
sessions, just not with you. So, and I know the ones I've had with different practitioners, it's very different how each person approaches it.
Yes.
But I've had profound experiences every
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
so I know there's something very special about the modality, which is part of the reason I wanted to talk to you, but also you in particular, because you're someone I deeply respect.
Oh, thank you, Pam.
Now, if you had one piece of, I'm not big on advice, but guidance, let's say guidance for someone who is feeling like they're off their path, they're not living authentically, and they don't even know where to start.
Mm.
What would you say to them?
Mm. Oh man, like find silence.
Mm, yeah.
Find some silence. Like just start with sitting with yourself in silence. I'm not even call it meditation.
Hmm.
Like, can you like just even 5, 10, 15 minutes a day where you put yourself in, maybe create a space in your home that's like doesn't have a lot of things in it. That's quite a
Hmm.
simple space with
Hmm.
not even if you have to honestly face a wall, like just to
Hmm.
have something that's not distracting. Or
Hmm.
if you're just going to, and it's just more of like sitting or laying down for even a short period of time and just turning off music, turning off the lights, just being in a place where it's just in consciousness, not like you're falling asleep, but you're just breathing in your being.
Yeah. Be still and know.
Yeah.
Be
Just be
still and
still.
know.
And
For
just
me,
listen to your
that
heart.
space is
Yeah.
in the forest. I go out and walk. I meditate every day, and I
Mm-hmm.
love my meditation. But I feel almost like an out of body experience when it's
Mm-hmm.
just quiet in the forest, and all I can hear are my feet on
Mm-hmm.
the leaves or the grass. And so I do that every day, and I've gained more wisdom walking in the forest than reading thousands of books.
I just like serious. You can actually hear yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think meditation, the word meditation can scare people off. So but I don't know how to meditate. And it sounds really scary and it sounds really daunting. And so let's just go, can you be with yourself?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And practicing that for a little bit longer every day.
I love that. And where can people find you, Pam?
Just nice and easy. Body Talk. No, that's not anymore. Sorry. I changed the website name. It's pamdhillon.com.
Okay.
And that'll take you
And
right to my
we'll
website.
link it in the
Mhm.
in the show notes. So pamdillon.com, and on Instagram.
It's Wild and Wise Pam is the
I
handle.
love that. I
Yeah.
wanted you to say it. Wild and wise Pam. I
Wild and
love
Wise
it.
Pam.
You are
Yeah.
wild and wise and all the things.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your wild and wise wisdom with us,
Thank you.
and your heart. And thank you more so for being a trailblazer, for being unapologetically someone who is following your heart, and in doing so, inspiring others to see what's possible and to take steps towards their heart's deepest longing. And it's not a small thing, and it's about something so much bigger than you. And I just really appreciate you.
I really hear that and feel that. Thank you so much, Pam. It's been an honor to share and inspire. Like, I feel like it's a beautiful place to inspire and just trying to be role models for love, light, and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's
Yay.
really fun. So thank you.